Two brothers try to stop a demon from giving birth to itself. Strap in, movie enthusiasts. It's recap time. Today, we will be recapping a horror film called When Evil Lurks, from the year 2023. The film introduces the concept of rotten, in which people are possessed by malevolent demons, so the demons can give birth to themselves. Two brothers, Pedro and Jimmy, come across a rotten and their lives turn upside down. The rotten spreads pure evil in the town, causing women and children to lose their minds and die brutally. The rotten starts to give birth to himself while Pedro and Jimmy seek the help of a woman who can stop the rotten, but will they make it in time? I hope you enjoy the video, so let's start. The movie opens at night when two brothers, Pedro and Jimmy, hear gunshots in the nearby woods. Pedro is the older brother with two kids, while Jimmy is the younger brother who is single. The brothers take their dogs in the morning and search the woods. There, they come across a dead body cut in half. The brothers search the dead body's possessions and wonder if this was the doing of their landowner, Ruiz. Ruiz was a rich landowner who lived with his pregnant wife, Himena. Pedro finds a notebook that shows a picture and a map leading to Maria Elena's house. Maria is an elderly neighbor of Pedro and Jimmy who lives with her two sons. Pedro and Jimmy visit Maria and question her about the gunshots from last night. They asked if she was expecting a man because they found him dead. Maria reveals that she was expecting a cleaner to arrive and carefully dispose of her older son, Uriel. Pedro and Jimmy enter her house and meet Uriel, who is obese and has a mutilated body. Maria reveals that Uriel is rotten, a person possessed by a demon, while the demon prepares to give birth to itself. Maria mentions that she took care of Uriel until the cleaner arrived and executed Uriel properly so they didn't unleash the demon. Unfortunately, the cleaner arrived after a year, and now he has been found dismembered. The brothers head to the authorities and question them about Uriel's condition. The cops act as if they were uninformed. Pedro gets furious and threatens to call the mayor. The cops dismiss them by saying they will contact public health to solve the case. Afterward, the brothers approach the landowner, Ruiz. They inform Ruiz about Uriel's rotten condition and how the cops aren't dealing with this case. Pedro tells Ruiz that the rotten will force everyone to leave the land. Ruiz believes in this stuff too, stating that the rotten make the animals do crazy things first, then the deceased. Ruiz thinks this was a setup because the state wants to steal his land, and that's why they won't help them. He tells them they have to take matters into their own hands and get rid of Uriel before he dies. Later, at dinner with his wife, Ruiz decides to take matters into his own hands and visits Maria's house with a gun. He rushes into her house and gets shocked when he sees Uriel. Maria reasons with Ruiz that if he kills the demon with a gun, then he will possess their bodies and souls. Ruiz ignores her and aims the gun at Uriel's head just before the demon within starts tormenting Ruiz. He tells Ruiz to kill him so he can proceed to possess his pregnant wife and the growing baby inside her. Ruiz gets worried and doesn't shoot Uriel. Moments later, Himena arrives with Pedro and Jimmy. Ruiz orders them to leave Uriel outside of the town. They all pick him up in his sheets and place him in the back of Ruiz's truck. While driving far from town, they agree to burn their clothes so the evil doesn't spread. But suddenly, they almost run into a boy on the street. Moments later, they stop the car to realize that Uriel is missing from the back. Ruiz states that he must have fallen far from the town, so this is not their problem anymore. They all return home and clean themselves. The next morning, Himena calls Ruiz and points out a goat that seems possessed. Ruiz shoots the goat with a gun, which was against the warnings because it allows the rotten to spread its possession. The goat gets shot in the face, and suddenly, Himena hits Ruiz with an axe to his face. She then proceeds to axe her face multiple times and passes away. Later at night, Uriel's younger brother arrives at Pedro's and Jimmy's house. He reveals that he went to Ruiz's house and found him and his wife deceased. He begs them to let him stay with them because his mother has disappeared too. Jimmy finds it fishy, but Pedro lets him stay after seizing his gun. Afterward, they plan to abandon everything in their house and leave the town with their mother and Pedro's children. In the morning, Jimmy goes to pick up their mother, while Pedro goes to his ex-wife, Sabrina's house, to pick up his kids, Santino, and Jair. Sabrina lives with her husband, Leonardo, who opens the door for Pedro. Pedro rushes into the house and asks Leonardo for spare clothes while getting naked to burn his clothes. Sabrina wakes up and yells at Pedro to leave while their dog sniffs and licks Pedro's clothes. Pedro wears Leonardo's clothes and explains that they are in danger because of an evil spirit on the loose. Sabrina mocks Pedro for abandoning her and their kids. Vicky, Sabrina's daughter with Leonardo, watches the adults arguing alongside their dog, who is possessed now after licking Pedro's clothes. The dog attacks Vicky and runs outside with her. Sabrina screams in terror, while Leonardo and Pedro run outside to chase the dog but find no clue. Pedro runs back to the house and picks up his kids. He orders his younger son, Santino, to remain still while he brings down his older and autistic son, Jair. Meanwhile, Leonardo returns home panicking and drives away in his car with a shotgun to find Vicky. Pedro chases Leonardo barefoot and finds that Leonardo has shot the dog. The evil had spread, and Pedro notices Vicky has returned to Sabrina completely unharmed. Vicky cheerfully tells Sabrina that Leonardo will arrive in his car and run over her. On the other hand, Pedro steals their car and takes away his boys. On his way out, he witnesses Leonardo arriving at the scene in his car and crashing into Sabrina while Vicky dances nearby. Pedro drives away in sheer horror to pick up Jimmy and their mother. He picks them up, and the united family flees from the town. They stop at a store to buy ice cream for Jair, but instead they get a call from Sabrina, who just died. Pedro attends the call, and Sabrina tells him she wants her kids back. Pedro tells her they are fine and safe with him. She mocks Pedro for being a coward and keeps repeating that she will steal their children from him again. Pedro gets scared and furious, so he breaks the phone into pieces. He starts crying, blaming himself for all the murders, so Jimmy tries to console him. Jimmy informs him that he knows a woman who has experienced similar things with demons, and she can help her, maybe even lend them some money. The woman's name is Mirtha, and she was a former cleaner. Jimmy introduces Pedro to Mirtha, and she invites them to stay at her place for as long as they want. Pedro hesitates to stay but agrees after Jimmy convinces him. The family settles in while Jimmy talks with Mirtha about their situation. Mirtha assesses that Jair might be possessed, but Jimmy clarifies to her that he is just autistic. At night, Pedro decides to sleep with Jair in the car, while their mother sleeps with Santino. After everyone goes to sleep, Jair remains awake and witnesses Sabrina's return. Sabrina enters the house and picks up Santino. Pedro's mom tries to figure out if she's dreaming or if Sabrina is actually here. Sabrina tells her she came to collect her children, and she reveals her bloodied face. Pedro's mom alerts him that someone is in her room with Santino. Pedro enters the room and confronts Sabrina, holding Santino. She reminds him that she came here for her children, then jumps from the balcony with Santino. Pedro rushes downstairs to save Santino, but finds no trace of him or Sabrina. Pedro rushes to check up on Jair, only to find out he's safe in the car. He goes into the woods searching for Santino, while Mirtha inspects Jair and deems him a rotten and not autistic. She points out that Jair's hands are twisted, which means a demon has possessed him and doesn't understand how to control the body. Mirtha orders Jimmy to get his brother, and everyone should remain inside the house because the demon is everywhere. They gather in the house, and Mirtha unveils her cleaner equipment. She tells them they have to find the original Rotten and slay him properly. Jimmy mentions they moved Uriel, and he probably died. Mirtha reveals that the demon only freed its essence, and it still wants to be physically born. She informs them that she can eliminate the demon with her equipment before it gives birth to itself. Jimmy promises to find Santino, while Pedro decides to search for Uriel with Mirtha. They leave Mirtha's house, leaving Jair alone with his grandmother. Jimmy comes across Sabrina strolling on the street. He finds out that she has taken Santino's life, and now she's just walking while eating the corpse of Santino. Jimmy gets petrified and furious, so he runs the car over Sabrina in rage and crashes into a tree. Meanwhile, Mirtha and Pedro reach the destination where Uriel might have fallen. They decide to investigate a nearby rural school because, according to Mirtha, evil likes children. and the children like evil too. Back at Mirtha's house, Jair walks in the house completely normal and talks completely normal with his grandmother, meaning he was possessed. Mirtha and Pedro arrive at the school and find a bunch of possessed children sitting still in a classroom. Mirtha and Pedro approach them and ask them if they know where the demon is and if they are helping him hide. The possessed children valiantly lie to stall the duo from interrupting the demonic birth. Mirtha and Pedro exit the class and roam around the school. They evidently find a bunch of adult dead bodies hidden inside a small stage in the school auditorium. Mirtha starts setting up her demon-slaying equipment because she is sure the Rotten is hiding here. The children arrive in the auditorium and try to distract Pedro by lying, but Mirtha tells him to ignore the kids and pull out the Rotten. Pedro moves some dead bodies and finds Uriel hiding underneath them, still alive. He tries to pick him up, but fails due to Uriel's weight. Pedro falls for one of the kids, lie that there is an axe in the front room, and leaves Mirtha. The kids lock Pedro in the room and attack Mirtha. They break her equipment and drag her away while smacking a hammer on her forehead. Pedro escapes from the room and fails to save Mirtha. Pedro notices Uriel rising from the stage, so he picks up a piece of equipment and smashes it on Uriel's head, but it is useless. Uriel died, but the demon successfully gave birth to itself. The young demon rises from the stage, covered in blood, and marks Pedro's forehead. The demon then exits the school with the possessed children. Pedro then returns to Mirtha's house and leaves with Jimmy and Jair to return to their own house. There, Jimmy goes to the shed to check up on Uriel's younger brother. He confesses to Jimmy that he was possessed 4 days ago, so he cut the original cleaner and then ate him. He also mentions that he did the same to his mother. The kid informs Jimmy that the same thing might have happened to Jimmy's mother too. Pedro feeds Jair ice cream, but Jair starts choking on something. Pedro checks his mouth and finds hair covered in blood inside his mouth, along with his mother's necklace. Pedro realizes a possessed Jair ate his mother and fooled Pedro with his autism. Pedro runs outside to Jimmy and falls on his knees in tears. The brothers realize their fate and cry together, knowing they only have each other now, and the movie ends here. I hope you liked the story recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Thank you for being a part of Black's Movie Recaps. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Black's Movie Recap for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned, and until next time, stay captivated.